Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto, or welcome to the channel if you're new. And oh my, look at the price action in the markets right now. We will talk about that in this video. We'll talk about all the relevant fundamentals. The New York session has just opened about 15 minutes ago, so we're seeing a lot of volume entering the markets, a lot of volatility entering the markets, and at this point of time, the general financial markets are not looking amazing. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about fundamentals. We'll talk about Bitcoin, which obviously Bitcoin at this point of time by far matters most for what we need to know about altcoins as well. We'll talk about that. Specifically, we'll talk about XRP and Ethereum as well, and we will highlight 3 altcoins that I think you need to keep an eye on, where there actually is still some momentum and some opportunity. So we'll talk about that. I'll take my time to get through this, right? So we will start off with the fundamental situation. I'll start off with the title and the thumbnail, by the way, because those are quite clickbaity. Whenever I do that, which sometimes I do, sue me. I want to address that initially. So I want to talk about, can you actually expect a market dump again, lower? We'll start off with that. Then we'll talk about the fundamental situation, which is not amazing. And then we'll talk about Bitcoin, which actually is looking a little bit better, XRP, Ethereum afterwards, and then altcoins. So let's get right into it. That is the structure, but let's start off with that clickbait thumbnail. The thumbnail is probably something like market crash or market dump expected, something like that. So let's start off with that. Do I expect a new market crash? At this point of time, no. If the fundamentals get much worse, then it is a possibility, but at this point of time, no. I do think, when we're talking about Bitcoin, but I'll show you in a moment, I do think we can spike down lower, and we'll talk about a couple of levels, but ultimately at this point of time, Bitcoin is holding support. It was to be expected, if you watched my videos earlier today, that we would push down into that support, but we are holding that relatively well, even though the fundamentals are not looking great. Okay, so you can see right here that equities are falling off a cliff, and while equities are falling off a cliff, Bitcoin is holding. So that means that selling pressure is exhausted, and that means that there's actually some bidding coming in, because you can see that the volume is actually quite high for Bitcoin and selected altcoins, not all of them, but okay. So let's start off with so that's everything out of the way. Okay, we can dump down lower, but ultimately, I think the general support level around 99,000 will hold, right? And that is the bottom that we created on Tuesday. So I don't think we'll crash down lower, potentially a spike lower, but then I think we will reclaim that. That's my verdict in general. Let's talk about why. So first of all, the fundamentals are horrendous. I mean, the stock market, I said it earlier about the Russell 2000. So these are very risky stocks. This is the first time the Russell 2000 on the 12-hour time frame has closed below the trend since April. So that's quite bearish. But then outside of that, I mean, if you take a look at the S&P 500 here, this is from the top, the local top, to the bottom. We are now down about 3.9%. Something like that is something we also have not seen in a very long time. I mean, even when we had that escalation between China and the United States, we did not see that, which makes me wonder if I missed some news. The liquidity situation, we have had some repo operations today, $2 billion worth, but I doubt that's it. So that's not amazing when we're talking about the liquidity situation in the United States. But the SOFR spread seems to be okay. So I don't think a liquidity problem is the main issue for the United States. Obviously, there's, I think overnight, the United States curbed and put some export controls on NVIDIA chips again. So maybe that doesn't help. Jobs data overall in the last couple of months has not been amazing. The US government shutdown still going on. That is also not amazing. But ultimately, like, doesn't really matter that much. No, we just have to realize that the stock market at this point of time is relatively weak, and the volatility index is increasing. So financial market stability is increasing, and the market itself, equities, are pushing down, right? So the fundamentals around the crypto markets at this point of time, I would consider bearish. Now, then the question becomes, well, why do you actually expect Bitcoin to hold then? And that is the bullish divergence that we see right now from Bitcoin to equities. What we saw over the majority of October is that Bitcoin and crypto was actually relatively weak, right? So when equities rallied, crypto sometimes fell. And when equities fell, crypto fell more. And you can see that at this point of time, that is changing. Equities have made much lower lows compared to Tuesday, and Bitcoin is holding. Bitcoin has actually made a higher low right here, and I think on certain, yeah, you can actually see right here that we also have a bullish divergence here and there. It depends on how the candle closes, but we can form a bullish divergence here. So that is great. So even though the fundamentals are bad, the crypto market specifically is reacting to that relatively well. And then when we're talking about the technicals, we have a massive support level right here at 99,000. And then just below that, so then we have this level right here at 94, 95,000. Now I have to say 94, 93,000. We have another strong support level. So if we see a continuation of these fundamentals, and what I mean with these fundamentals is a volatility index that's increasing, aka more instability in the financial markets, then I think Bitcoin can push down lower. But if it does, I think we'll find support at 94, 93,000. And I think we'll be able to reclaim the current support level at 99,000. So this is for me at this point of time, based on the technicals, based on the bullish divergence we've seen from Bitcoin, based on the price action we've seen so far from Bitcoin in the last couple of days, this seems like the worst case scenario. And I would say we even have a good chance for Bitcoin to just hold 99,000. So far we've been doing an amazing job. And there actually does seem to be quite a lot of bidding coming in for Bitcoin. So it looks quite good. So I think you should be prepared because of the current situation for a spike down lower. But ultimately, spike down lower, yes or no, I think we'll be able to hold the general area around 99,000. And I think we'll be able to get some recovery, although it might be a little bit early to already talk about that right now, into 103 and 104,000. That's my verdict. That's what I expect for Bitcoin, and therefore also a lot of altcoins. I mean, you can see some altcoins right now are rallying much more than Bitcoin, but ultimately they're all behaving similarly. Now, when we're talking about Ethereum and XRP, I think Ethereum is just going to follow Bitcoin exactly. Ethereum has a little bit more support, so Ethereum could spike down into 3,150, 3,100, but then ultimately find support, rally into 3,480. And XRP, I did a full video on that this morning. I mean, ultimately, I expect the same. I think we'll be able to find support right here between 2.15 and 2.05, and I think it's a matter of time before we reclaim 2.25, because XRP and Ethereum at this point of time are just incredibly correlated to Bitcoin, right? So that looks very similar. Now, there's a couple of altcoins that I want to shine a spotlight on at this point of time that have quite a lot of momentum. First of all, XPL, Plasma, actually has a lot of momentum, which is strange to say the least. But outside of that, there's a couple. I doubt whether I should call this out, so let's do it at the end. First of all, Near is looking quite strong. We had some good news about that, but it's rallying much higher right here. And it's the key level to break is right here at 2.4 and 2.35. So if we're able to get a close above that and actually hold it as support, I think we're going to rally up higher, but this has a lot of momentum right now. And then outside of that, we also have ICP. ICP has had a huge amount of momentum. This is a lot more risky than Near, I would say, because it has already rallied since like for a week already. But still, I mean, if something has momentum like this, you cannot ignore it. And then last but not least, and I doubt whether I should call this out, but Fetch is actually looking like it can do some recovery. It's gaining quite a lot of momentum. We've had some major bullish divergences, as you can see right here. But ultimately, this, like Fetch and ASI, had a lot of bad news. So therefore, I'd be careful with this. But it looks like we're going to be able to reclaim 28 and 29 cents. And if we're able to do that, that's a massive bullish breakout, and we could see some nice recovery up higher of about 20-30% at least. Those are my thoughts. I think that's what you need to know regarding the markets for now. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that brings about some value and some good information for all of you. Thank you for watching. For now, everybody, take care and bye.